So Anthropic just released Sonnet 4.6 today, and the benchmarks are really good. So good, in fact, it's actually beating out Opus 4.6 in some areas, while coming in at a 40% cheaper price point.
And on that, you've got Anthropic's latest model outperforming ChatGPT-5.
OpenAI CEO is freaking out because Claude Sonnet 4.6 walked in and quietly stole the spotlight while OpenAI was still polishing its keynote slides. Anthropic dropped a model with a 1 million token context window, near Opus intelligence, and pricing that actually makes sense. And suddenly, the conversation changed. Developers are testing it. Enterprises are switching. And somewhere in a glass office, an OpenAI executive is refreshing usage dashboards.
But with respect to the price that we're seeing come down with Anthropic's model, this 1/5 the price of the Opus released last month, it really has to do with certain internal efficiencies. And so this is better at coding and it's able to move fast.
Sonnet 4.6 landed as a full upgrade across coding, computer use, agent planning, financial analysis, and long context reasoning. It scored 79.6 on Sway Bench verified testing. It matched or beat Opus 4.6 in several real-world benchmarks. And it did this while running faster and cheaper. That is not incremental improvement. That is competitive disruption.
Well, that's been something that OpenAI has been confronting this summer in the face of ongoing litigation. And so what they've done just this morning actually is announced new age gating parameters. So basically introducing these parental controls where the experience for a user.
Now imagine being OpenAI's CEO watching this unfold. You just rolled out GPT updates, tuned enterprise routing systems to cut costs, and pushed instant checkout features inside ChatGPT to show commercial momentum. Then Anthropic releases a model that delivers near Opus performance at roughly 40% lower cost in comparable tiers. Developers start saying it follows instructions better. They say it hallucinates less. They say it handles spreadsheets and financial workflows like a professional analyst. That does not feel comfortable.
ChatGPT, the pricing in terms of enterprise come significantly down as well when they had that release come out 2 months ago. They credited that with this routing system where they don't always have to go to the highest powered model, but they can downgrade to a lower model that doesn't cost as much to run with some of the easier queries, and that's how they were able to achieve price efficiency here.
The pricing story alone should make anyone in OpenAI nervous. Sonnet 4.6 runs at $3 per million input tokens and $6 per million output tokens, which keeps it in a practical range for startups and enterprise deployments. Opus-level performance used to require premium pricing. Now you get that level of reasoning at a far more accessible rate. PI-heavy companies look at that math and make quick decisions. CFOs love cost efficiency. CTOs love performance. Sonnet 4.6 checks both boxes.
I don't know what the specific usage limits would be, but access to it is there. And we can see right here that this pricing is $3 and $15, so $3 per million input tokens and $15 per million output. I believe Opus 4.6 is $5 per million input and $25 per million output, unless you use it on the fast mode, which is like 6 times as expensive.
When you examine the benchmarks more closely, the pressure becomes obvious. Sonnet 4.6 leads in agentic financial analysis and office task performance. Those categories matter because that is where businesses live. Most companies are not asking AI to write poetry. They want it to analyze spreadsheets, draft reports, manage workflows, and navigate browsers. Anthropic leaned directly into that reality. They optimized for computer use and practical execution. That wins contracts.
As a general purpose model, Opus is the best. Like for OpenClaw, Opus is extremely good in terms of...
OpenAI still dominates in broad brand awareness. ChatGPT remains the household name. But technical users are not driven by branding. They care about capability and cost. In head-to-head tests, Sonnet 4.6 matches GPT-level models in agentic coding and even beats larger models in specific workflow tasks. Developers notice when a model follows instructions cleanly without needing 10 clarifications. They notice when browser automation scripts run smoothly. They notice when financial analysis outputs feel structured and reliable.
Wow, I'm really impressed. Anthropic just released Claude Sonnet 4.6 and is faster, cheaper, and just as good as Opus at most agentic tasks.
There is also the speed factor. Sonnet 4.6 runs faster than Opus 4.6 in many tests. That speed translates into real-world productivity. Agents built on top of it complete tasks quicker. Browser automation finishes sooner. Multi-step operations feel fluid instead of sluggish. In a world where AI agents are expected to operate continuously, speed becomes a competitive advantage. OpenAI has been refining routing systems to cut inference cost. Anthropic just reduced the need for complicated routing by making the main model efficient.
Told me that this latest model is opening the door for businesses to build products that simply weren't possible a few months ago.
We hear from companies all the time that their product or their idea was not possible 3 months ago, 6 months ago with the previous models, but then something happens where the model evolves to the point where all of a sudden it's now possible.
Then we come to the 1 million token context window. That headline feature grabs attention. Critics talk about context rot beyond 100,000 tokens, and that concern is fair. But Anthropic is backing its claim with evaluations like Vending Bench Arena, where the model manages simulated businesses over extended interactions. That signals long-horizon reasoning. Even if context rot remains a technical challenge, the capability to load entire code bases and large datasets into one prompt shifts developer behavior. OpenAI has long competed on context expansion. Now that advantage feels less unique.
If you're below the $200 a month plan, so you're on the $100 a month plan or the $200 a month plan, you're going to be using Sonnet 4.6 for everything. It's going to get you way more usage. Opus is going to use basically your entire plan up in a day if you're on the $100 plan or the $20 plan. So Sonnet is the way to go. If you're below 200, you want to do it for all simple tasks. If you're at the $200 plan and if you're on OpenClaw, you need to switch out your model to make 4.6 your brain.
What really stings for OpenAI is the perception shift. For years, ChatGPT felt like the cutting edge. Now you hear developers say Sonnet 4.6 feels cleaner. They describe it as more confident in instruction following. They highlight lower hallucination rates. They mention better spreadsheet handling and smoother agent integration. Perception matters in technology cycles. Once the narrative moves, market momentum follows. Investors watch that narrative closely.
There are such customized use cases. So whereas Anthropic really resonates with an insurance company, for example, AIG or some of those other names, there are others like a Grok that's better with social media. So they are very highly customized use cases when you think about where these LLMs best perform.
OpenAI recently rolled out instant checkout in ChatGPT to integrate commerce directly into conversation. That move shows ambition to monetize agents. It also shows urgency. When your competitor releases a model that excels at agentic workflows and enterprise tasks, you emphasize features that tie users into your ecosystem. That feels strategic, but it also reveals competitive heat. If Claude becomes the default engine for business automation, revenue shifts toward Anthropic's API usage. Enterprise clients are pragmatic. They compare performance charts. They compare invoices. They test reliability in real tasks. If Sonnet 4.6 delivers near Opus intelligence with lower cost and strong office automation capability, procurement teams will take meetings with Anthropic. OpenAI cannot rely solely on brand loyalty in that environment. Technical merit and pricing discipline win long-term contracts.
They came out with a computer use model which was essentially autonomously controlling the computer and able to perform tasks in that vein, where it could actually look at a screen and do things almost as a human would in using a computer.
From a spokesperson perspective, I think this moment marks a shift from hype-driven AI competition to efficiency-driven competition. OpenAI built early dominance on being first and being powerful. Anthropic is now building pressure by being practical and affordable while remaining powerful enough. That combination attracts developers who once defaulted to GPT models without thinking twice. You can almost picture the boardroom tension. Usage growth matters, API revenue matters, enterprise retention matters. When a rival releases a model that undercuts you on price and matches you on performance in key categories, you respond quickly, you adjust pricing, you add features, you refine messaging. That is what competition looks like.
Sonnet is not better at Opus than any specific thing, but it is just as good as Opus 4.6 when it comes to agentic tasks specifically. So you look at agentic computer use, 72.5% versus 72.7%, basically exactly the same. This is massive because this means it is just as good as a brain for tools like OpenClaw and Claude Code, but this is going to be a fifth of the price.
Claude Sonnet 4.6 is not just another model release. It represents a recalibration of the AI market. It challenges the assumption that top-tier reasoning must come with top-tier pricing. It challenges the belief that ChatGPT automatically wins every benchmark conversation. And it gives developers a credible alternative that feels fresh, capable, and economically sensible. That is why this launch feels bigger than a typical model update. It places real pressure on OpenAI's positioning. It invites enterprises to reconsider contracts. It empowers startups to lower burn rates while maintaining performance. And it signals that the AI race is no longer about who shouts the loudest. It is about who delivers the most value per token.
Because the fact that you can now use it 5 times as much as Opus means you can get 5 times more use out of the most powerful AI tool ever created, which means you can create a lot more economic power for yourself.
Now let's talk about the timing, because timing tells you everything. OpenAI announces instant checkout inside ChatGPT, letting users buy directly from Etsy and soon Shopify. The stock market reacts, shares move, headlines flash. It looks bold. It looks innovative. But look at the backdrop. Anthropic drops Sonnet 4.6 with stronger agentic workflows and lower pricing. You tell me that is not pressure. That looks like a company defending ground.
With OpenAI just this hour announcing that it's switching on instant checkout in ChatGPT so that users can buy directly in chat from Etsy and soon from Shopify.
Instant checkout sounds impressive, and it is technically clever. You can now transact inside a chat window. That is convenient. But the real question is this: who controls the agent layer that businesses build on? If developers prefer Claude for browser automation, spreadsheet control, financial modeling, and large context reasoning, then commerce integrations will not be enough to stop migration. Infrastructure matters more than checkout buttons. Anthropic clearly understands where the money is. They are pushing hard into computer use, office workflows, and what they call co-work scenarios. That means Excel manipulation, email drafting, web browsing, form completion, dashboard generation. That is the daily work of millions of employees. If Sonnet 4.6 performs those tasks reliably and cheaply, enterprise adoption follows naturally. OpenAI cannot ignore that shift.
Additionally, we do see some benchmarks here of this model as well, compared to Gemini 3 Pro and GPT 5.2, but also they compare it to the previous version of itself, which I like to see, as well as to Opus 4.5, which they say that it does seemingly fare better against, and we can see that it seemingly...
The enterprise battlefield is not about who wins Twitter debates. It is about procurement teams comparing invoices and performance logs. Anthropic already has a strong enterprise footprint, especially in insurance and knowledge work sectors. They speak the language of business use cases. They emphasize financial analysis benchmarks and agentic task performance. That resonates with executives who care about measurable ROI. Meanwhile, OpenAI has been dealing with personality debates and sycophancy adjustments in ChatGPT. They introduced age gating and behavioral changes. They consulted psychologists to reduce pandering responses. That is thoughtful product work, but it does not directly address enterprise workflow dominance. If a CFO asks which model saves more money while performing equally well, philosophical tuning takes a backseat to spreadsheet performance.
Than a general user, but it's separate to that. Any age group will notice that with ChatGPT 5, what's so different here is less sycophancy. So that's where you're really looking to make this, I mean, they've consulted with dozens of psychologists around the world in order to better.
Developers have started describing Sonnet 4.6 as a scalpel compared to Opus as a nuclear option. That metaphor matters. For weeks, many teams defaulted to Opus-level models for everything because smaller alternatives felt insufficient. Now they have a high-performance mid-tier model that handles most real-world tasks without draining budgets. That creates flexibility. OpenAI must respond to that flexibility or risk losing routine usage volume.
To what users want to hear. And that's why some people, when they were talking about their reception to ChatGPT 5, being strained, it was the fact that they felt like they lost their friend because they were looking, that was a direct change in the coding.
It's remarkable. Great stuff, Mac. Thanks very much.
Let's address the context war. Sonnet 4.6 introduced a 1 million token context window in beta. Critics raise concerns about context rot beyond 100,000 tokens. That is a legitimate technical debate. But even with skepticism, the marketing impact is undeniable. Developers can load entire code bases into a single prompt. They can run extended planning sessions with persistent memory. They can simulate business operations over long horizons.
The main updates that they have decided to prominently tell us are that it is the most capable Sonnet model, which is probably to be expected based on the name, but it also features a 1 million token context window in beta. Additionally to that, they mentioned that this is now the default model for the free and pro plan.
Anthropic showcased Vending Bench Arena results to argue that long context reasoning holds up. That signals confidence. OpenAI expanded context windows in earlier releases and gained praise for it. Now that differentiation shrinks. When context capacity becomes comparable, the conversation shifts to efficiency and reliability. Sonnet 4.6 gains ground there by emphasizing lower hallucination rates and strong instruction following.
The biggest complaint I get about OpenClaw at the moment is if you are using Anthropic, it is just too expensive. You either use the OAuth and get kicked off, or you use the API and you're spending hundreds of dollars a day. Up to this point, Opus 4.6 was really the only usable model for OpenClaw, but this changes everything.
The coding comparison also deserves attention. Sonnet 4.6 holds its own in agentic terminal coding and complex workflows. It may not replace Opus in extremely novel problem solving, but it handles everyday coding tasks at a lower cost. Startups building AI agents care about sustained usage. If you can run automated feature builds overnight without worrying about massive token bills, you choose the model that keeps costs predictable.
The current two big competitors in terms of models, Claude Opus 4.6 and GPT-5.2 Codex.
This is where revenue pressure becomes real. A PI revenue drives long-term sustainability for AI labs. If high-usage developers migrate to Sonnet for cost efficiency while maintaining acceptable performance, OpenAI's revenue growth slows. Even a modest percentage shift in enterprise usage translates into large financial implications. Market leaders fear erosion more than direct defeat. Perception compounds that effect. Once developers publicly say they prefer Claude for office automation and financial analysis, social proof accelerates adoption. Forums discuss switching strategies. Tutorials update default model settings. Tool wrappers integrate Claude as primary brain. Momentum spreads quietly. By the time executives notice usage metrics declining, the ecosystem may already be tilting.
And the two I'd like to call out, because it's two places where Sonnet 4.6 beats everybody, is agentic financial analysis and office tasks. Now, office tasks and computer use in general is really what Anthropic is pushing with Sonnet 4.6. And you see here in this clip they released, that's all they're demoing. So a lot of this has to do with Claude Cowork.
OpenAI still commands enormous resources and talent. They innovate rapidly. They deploy features like instant checkout to expand monetization channels. But the competitive environment is tightening. Anthropic positioned Sonnet 4.6 as purpose-built for agents. They made it default in the Claude web app. That signals confidence in scalability and mainstream appeal. I think what truly unsettles OpenAI leadership is the narrative shift from power to practicality. For years, bigger models with deeper reasoning dominated headlines. Now cost per token and real-world workflow performance drive decisions. Sonnet 4.6 delivers near-opus intelligence with practical speed and pricing. That combination appeals to businesses more than abstract benchmark wins.
Sonnet 4.6 is really good at A, using your computer, B, being able to browse the web, and C, being able to execute, again, these office tasks. Think of things like Excel or email.
Developers are pragmatic. They choose tools that work and fit budgets. If Claude executes browser automation scripts smoothly, generates dashboards efficiently, scrapes headlines with Playwright, and manipulates spreadsheets accurately, loyalty follows results. OpenAI cannot rely solely on legacy dominance. They must compete on the same economic terms. When you step back, this is healthy competition. It forces innovation. It pressures pricing discipline. It accelerates enterprise maturity. But from OpenAI's perspective, it introduces uncertainty. They built early market dominance. They enjoyed premium positioning. Now a rival matches performance in key areas while charging less. That scenario demands rapid strategic recalibration.
Now, speaking of coding more technical tasks, Sonnet 4.6 still holds its own. So when we look at agentic terminal coding and agentic coding, 4.6 by the numbers is basically as good as Opus 4.5, while again being 40% cheaper. And we compare it to the other frontier models like Gemini 3 Pro and 5.2.
Claude Sonnet 4.6 is not a symbolic threat. It is a tangible alternative with clear benchmarks and cost advantages. Enterprises notice, developers experiment, analysts compare charts, and in competitive markets, incremental shifts accumulate into significant change. If OpenAI's CEO feels tension, it is understandable. Market leadership attracts challengers. When those challengers arrive with credible technology and attractive economics, complacency disappears. The AI race no longer revolves around who launched first. It revolves around who delivers sustained value per dollar spent. The next phase will reveal whether OpenAI counters with pricing adjustments, architectural breakthroughs, or new enterprise partnerships. For now, Sonnet 4.6 has captured attention. It has reframed conversations. It has offered a compelling alternative. And in technology markets, in Chinese, attention combined with value often signals the beginning of a broader shift.